the market and moved on.
So those people in a lot of cases are looking at, do I want to come back in? Like anything, sometimes there's that I don't know if I want to own anymore. I think we're going to see them coming back in more and more because of what's been happening to rents in particular. And with that high level of rent, people are kind of saying, you know what, maybe I was a little hasty on just selling. Maybe I should jump
Well, a
back
lot
in.
of these people were underwater, but
Yep.
because of the appreciation,
Yep.
they now could sell for a profit or at least break even,
Yeah.
but they still haven't put their homes on the market.
Yeah, the ones, so Tom, the biggest piece that we see, and we have a lot of people that are pre-approved, and by the way, for everybody that's listening, you've got to be pre-approved in
So
this
what's the
market.
difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification?
So the pre-qualification, Tom, you and I talk over the phone, we get a little bit of data,
Yeah.
and I can say, yeah, you look pretty good, Tom, let's sell you home for $1 million, and life is good. But the pre-approval, it really boils down into two sections. One is, we've actually got documentation from you that we can see and confirm. So
I've
that
applied.
You've applied, you definitely have. And we have run it through an automated underwriting system, that's the first step. Our group runs it also through what we call underwriting. So that's a person who's literally validating the information, saying, you now have a line of credit for $1 million, Tom Kelly. Go buy a house, be fruitful and multiply. I mean, that's what it is.
Do I have to pay a fee to get a pre-approval letter?
No, heavens no.
Okay.
No, you don't pay a fee. This is service, and this is what it's supposed to be. Is it let's get this done, let's get you lined up, and let's make sure we understand your goals, what you're looking for, put it together, and then it's a matter of finding that property.
So what are you doing with this huge list of people who've been pre-approved?
You know, number one, we keep in touch with them as to what their goals are and see if they're going to change it all. The interest rate bump up a little bit, you know, we talk about that, but honestly, it's nothing. Our affordability index is still such that interest rates can jump up to the mid-sixes, and you can still absolutely afford to buy a home and afford to buy it for less than what you're going to rent. But it does bring to attention that, you know, there is the time to move, and there is going to be an effect to your household. Let's talk about that. Let's go through and see if it's time for a change. And sometimes it's a change in down payment for a little better interest rate. Sometimes it's a change in program. It's just adjusting. Keep it in touch.
There was a story this week about people jumping off the fence because they were worried that mortgage rates would go higher.
Yeah.
So they were quote unquote desperate to buy a house. Did you experience that in the lending community?
We did. Yeah, we saw a little bit of it. And of course, I always chuckle. I started, my very first loan I ever did was 18.5%.
Right. I
So-
remember trying to get anything under 12,
Yep.
anything under 12.
Yep. So it is all relative. This is a healthy relative, though, because it comes back to your original question: is what are people doing to sell their home, and why are they not, bringing their inventory on? Is this helps move that forward a little bit to get the actual momentum, including we're seeing sellers taking up some of the offers in on a contingent basis. In other words, based on the party making an offer, selling their home as well. So there's a certain amount of health that comes into play at this time.
So if I'm a seller
Mm-hmm.
and I want to buy another house,
Yeah.
and I need to find a place to land before I jump.
Yeah.
So I go out and I'm looking at homes and I find something that I think I want to buy.
Yep.
But I'm not going to put my house on the market yet because I hear all about these multiple offers. If I lose out on a house
Mm-hmm.
and my house is on the market, then I could end up with nothing. What do I do?
So that happens not too often, but once in a while. And more times than not, what you're going to find yourself in is either a short rental environment, or you're going to be diligently looking for another house. And there is enough activity that more times than not, it's a very short period of time of going one house to the next. The irony is, Tom, more times than not, we will also hear from people, it's like, wow, the house we lost isn't as good as the one we actually found.
Right.
And I think that sometimes the intensity of the search is like, wait a minute, we moved up $10,000 in price and we got what we really wanted, or wow, we found this one in a better school district for our children, we never even thought about going that direction. It doesn't always have a bad consequence to being quote unquote in a jam on buying and selling.
When people lose out on these multiple offers, Mark,
Yeah.
do you find a lot of these people are going to wait a long time, like for a year? Will they wait till 2018 to look again? Are they frustrated?
Yeah,
Are
they're
they going
frustrated.
right back into the market? What are they doing?
So it's funny because we see kind of two trends of people. Some are just dogmatically out there making those offers until they get the one that works. And it is tougher, especially people who are in that $200,000 to $350,000 range. It's so tight in there that we have people that have missed out 8, 9, 10 times.
Really?
Yes, yes. Some of them will lose out 3, 4 times, and then they'll take a break for 2, 3, 4 months, and they'll kind of come back in and do it again. So there's a bit of a variation that we get on that, just depending on the household and the people involved.
We need to take a break, but we're going to come back and talk more with Mark Palmer about what do sellers do when they can't find a place to land. We definitely will have room for you. 1-888-973-KIRO. 1-888-973-5476. The website's mynorthwest.com, KIROradio.com. Shoot us a question, we'll get you on the air right now. The show's Real Estate Today. We'll be right back. Okay.
Sorry, I missed your cue on that one.
You're fine. You sound great.
I got myself in the corner. I was like, take me out, Tom, take me out.
54, 54.
4:54. Will you play the music
54.
30
Yep.
seconds before?
Sounds good.
Thanks. 4:54. I want to get into that second home, small investor, VRBO question.
Okay. Do you want to do the wild card at all, or do you think that's taking us out
No,
of
I
time?
think the wild card, I don't think, that might be too muddled for the average
Okay,
consumer.
okay, and I didn't, that's what I was worried about too, because it takes a while to explain it through, that some of it's gonna tighten, some of it's gonna loosen, da 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 da. You've got a lot of people in here today.
Should outsiders pay a tax on real estate in the Puget Sound area? They're doing that in Vancouver. Should we do it here? You're gonna listen in next week when we talk about outsiders and taxes right here on Real Estate Today with housing analyst Michael Lewis. We're talking with Mark Palmer about sellers and real estate taxes and also home loan rates. And Mark, there are a lot of people who would like to move on, as we mentioned,
Yeah.
but they can't because they can't find a place to land.
Yep.
We got a question from Elizabeth. She asked, Tom, what about those loans that tied up both ends of the house, tied up both houses, known as bridge loans?
Bridge
Are they
loans, yep.
still out there, and what do they cost?
They are still out there. They're starting to come back more and more. They're mostly private label. What that means, not too many institutions. It's more representative type parties that are out there. The loan to values on those are coming up. They've been in the 65 to 70% loan to value range, which means you've got to have quite a bit of equity in your house so we can draw enough equity to move forward. But we're just on the horizon where I've got one private label that's at 80% loan to value, which works great. Problem is his rate's 10.5%. So it's sometimes difficult to take down. Although again, if you only have that loan for 60 days, it's nothing because you got the house that you wanted without having to sell yours.
So the rate on the bridge loan is 10.5?
And when you get that high loan to value, you just don't have the appetite yet in the market, and you don't have competition. When you've got the lack of competition, you name your rate.
So is there a way of tying up both houses without getting a structured bridge loan?
Not yet. Watch for it in 2017 because as the real estate market in Seattle has remained strong and as we see people going, okay, it's still going to continue to go, then you'll see those loan to values come up high and you'll see those rates come down. Now, ironically, at the start of 2016, I had rates that were in the high 4s to low 6s depending on the person's profile. But that money got used really quickly, and then those people came back in and went, wait a minute, we can simply get more for our money, and it pushed the rates up.
Mark, small-time investors, mom-and-pop investors with, one or two rentals,
Yeah.
they're looking at the market now differently because of the ability to rent out homes short-term on the internet via Airbnb, VRBO.
Yep.
People are looking at buying another house and doing a short-term rental because the short-term rental renders a lot more revenue than a monthly rent would.
Yeah.
Are you seeing this, and how do lenders handle, short-term rentals when they know they're gonna go VRBO?
It's still in its infancy, Tom, so it depends a little bit on the person. I'll give you a real fast example. I had a lady that I worked with a little bit earlier this year. She has a place in West Seattle, not really a large place.
Right.
Does have a view though, and she's been involved with Airbnb for about a year and a quarter. Her qualifying actually was a little bit difficult because we have to look at sort of a self-employed type style income where we want to see a 2-year history. So it's still in its infancy, but if you have had Airbnb, as an example, as your income stream for a couple of years, then we're going to say, great, you're established, and we'll take that income and we will apply it as an offset against a new payment and a new mortgage.
Is it different, Mark, than a conventional rental? For example,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna buy a rental and rent it out to maybe somebody who's working downtown Seattle at Google
Yep.
or Amazon, and I know that I'm gonna do it on a month-to-month, how does a lender look at that versus one who's gonna be headed to Airbnb, VRBO route?
It's way easier to qualify using a more traditional rental agreement. In other words, Tom, you come to me and say, hey, I want to buy a house, Mark, and I'm going to go ahead and rent it traditionally, and I'm going to say, what are you going to get for it? Oh, I'm going to get $1,000 a month for it. Well, the good news is I'm going to say, Tom, I'm going to use $750 of that as rental income for you.
75%.
75%. Airbnb, if you say, hey, I'm going to do this Airbnb only, I'm going to say, Tom, do you have any experience? You're going to say, nope. And I'm going to say, Tom, I'm sorry, you can use that income as an asset, in other words, money, but I can't use it as income to offset and help you qualify for another house.
We've been talking about proving a track record as a landlord. If you've been
Yeah.
in it, it makes a difference.
Yep.
How much more of a down payment am I gonna need, Mark, if I'm a proven landlord with 3 rentals that all make money, that all wash my taxes and insurance? How much more of a down payment am I gonna need?
You're looking at 20%, and if you really want the best rates, you're looking at 25%. The great news is, we're back to normal. You are an experienced landlord, so we're going to give you your income, we're gonna give you your depreciation back, we're going to actually be normal in our qualifying. You've proven yourself that you know how to run the business of being a landlord.
In a couple of years ago, when somebody couldn't qualify for a conventional loan,
Yeah.
they would get an adjustable rate mortgage because you could qualify at a lower rate.
Yep.
Where are arms in the big picture, not only for owner occupants, but for investors?
So investors unfortunately don't have product, not in the traditional market, it's not there. For the owner occupied, they're back. Most of them are 5 or 7 year adjustables. In other words, they're fixed for 5 years or 7 years with no movement, but rates have been in the high 2s to low 3s, even with all the adjustments that we've had recently. Tremendous tool for the right people. And again, let's bring up those Amazon people that are here on 3-year assignments,
Right.
and they're moving on. Why would you take a 30-year fixed when you're out of here in 3 years? Well, to give you a 5-year arm, save you a bunch of money, and you've got a 2-year period of time to sell your house. I think that's gonna work out well. It's a great tool.
5-year arm at 3%, are you saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And the 30-year fixed is right now, what, 4.25%?
4.25, yeah.
So on a $300,000 loan, what's that gonna save somebody? We're talking about basically 1 percentage point, 1.25.
Yeah, they're gonna save a good couple of $100 a month on that.
Yeah. What about the idea, Mark, that the average home in the Puget Sound area was either sold or refinanced every 7 years? Doesn't that go back to bringing arms back into the possible picture?
It does. And for some people, Tom, they should. We talked off air about the pendulum doing the swing. There are customers that have come in, given me their goals, what they're gonna do with the house, et cetera, and they've taken a 30-year fixed because everybody's taken a 30-year fixed. Some people should have arms. They're not the evilness. In fact, to be fair, the Dennis who was on earlier today, he had an arm that was a bad news arm, and they're gone. You can't even get that product anymore. The new ones are very much guided, directed, they're very specific in how they work, and for a lot of people, they're just a tremendous tool. They should be considered. Not for everyone, but they should be considered.
Adjustable rate mortgages, they're out there for some people. Our time has just flown by. I want to give you Mark's telephone number. Get a hold of Mark during the week if you've got a mortgage question, 206-972-3820. That's 206-972-3820. I want to thank everybody for listening. Next week, should outsiders pay a tax on Puget Sound housing? Right here on Real Estate
Way to go,
Today.
Sounders. Woohoo!
Very good.
We got it. That was a good one. Hey, can I get a couple more picks so I can update my
Yeah,
my
we got to
stuff?
do it quick.
We'll do it quick. We can jump out of here. I'll clean up this real quick. Caitlin's gonna kill me if I don't bring her home some pics, so I'll bring her to the office. I should say home. She doesn't live there, really. She might think so sometimes. Okay. We'll go ahead and stop.